Thanks so much for attending this really important workshop. Some of you may be about to apply for a new role with a startup and you're looking at how you can best improve your CV. Amy will share with you some really great tips around formatting, but also looking at the digital space and how you can effectively apply for jobs with your CV. Stone and Chalk are hosting this fantastic series of events called Pivott. We've got a jobs platform, a mentoring program that kicked off last night, again in the virtual space, which was fantastic. This is a program that's been supported by Launch Victoria, and it's designed for you. It's designed for job seekers and people who are looking to transition and maybe want to explore what it's like to work at a Start Smart Academy. It's 12 modules, they're quite short, case studies from people in startups and sharing their experience, their stories. So that's a great starting point. There's a whole plethora of workshops like this one. There's a whole series of events that will be rolling out over the next 12 months. And as I mentioned before, we've got the jobs platform and a really rigorous, interesting mentor-mentee program called Connect. So any of you on the call who are mid to senior level executives who are wanting to make that transition, I'd highly recommend putting through an expression of interest for that, because we'll be doing a second intake a little bit later on in the year. With no further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Amy. Amy is, as she said, she's got a successful background in events and marketing. She's been involved in startups. She actually has a podcast and is very much about supporting women in particular, transitioning and pivoting to new opportunities in their career and personal life. She has a family and has lots of balls in the air, but is a passionate advocate for women and women working and starting businesses. So she also works with men. So any men on the call, please don't feel like you've been alienated. But she will take you on a great journey today. And the session today will be very interactive. It's definitely about asking questions, using the chat. I'll be here in the background to provide any support, but it is going to be facilitated by Amy. And I will hand over to you, Amy, for a great session. Thank you.
Awesome, Abby. Thank you so much. And that was a great introduction to Stone and Chalk. Hello, everybody. As Abby said, I'm a business coach. I have a podcast called The Choice with Amy Bett. I'm a mum. I've got 3 little girls who keep me really busy, especially during lockdown at the moment. For anybody that is with me in lockdown, if you're Melbourne or Victoria based, I feel you. So I just hope that you're going okay. And I just wanted to give you a second of support there. But I'm here today to talk to you about how to start up, fit and workshop your CV in order to be able to get a role or to secure a role in a startup organization. And so the workshop objectives and what I'd really love to be able to teach you today, 4 key areas. So the first one, I'm going to give you tips on how to reboot your resume. I'm going to talk about the application process, the different types of ways that are now you're now expected to apply for a position at a startup organization, whether that be through the traditional resume, cover letter avenue, or whether you're asked to actually submit a video application. And I'm going to give you the tools to stand out from the crowd if you have to either apply via resume or through video application, as I said. But before we actually get going, I just wanted to talk quickly about a few housekeeping items. So as Abby said, I'd really love for this to be an interactive workshop. So if you have the opportunity to, obviously this is a small group on the call today, it would be absolutely fantastic if you could turn your camera on, mainly just so that I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. It's weird when you're talking to yourself, to be honest. So if you have the opportunity to, that would be absolutely brilliant. And I will be asking questions and you'll definitely have the opportunity to share. So yeah, if you can turn your camera on, that's awesome. But if you can't, just write your name in the chat box and just let me know that you can't, so then I won't call on you if you're not able to speak to me or to pop yourself on camera. So if it's possible to have your CV handy to review throughout the session, I will be giving you tips on your resume. So it does make it a lot easier for you to be able to make little notes, and there will be time for that. We'll be doing an activity about how to actually format your resume, and you'll be able to write some notes on there. So you'll need pen and paper handy. You will, as Abby said, you'll get the slides after this session. So don't feel as though you need to vigorously write everything down. There's a lot of content that I'm going to cover with you today. So just be able to relax into it and listen without feeling the need to write everything, because I promise you'll get the slides. There is a lot of information. As I said, there'll be times that I ask you questions, and I think I can see everybody's names here, but if I can't, just you can click the three buttons at the top of your screen and make sure that your name is popped in there as well. Okay, so let's jump in. So just before we get into the content, I'd love to get to know you a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind just writing in the chat box what circumstances you're in at the moment. Are you actively seeking a role? B, what type of industry are you working or trained in? And C, what type of role are you looking for? If you could just answer those questions in the chat box now, that would be absolutely fabulous. I'll give you a couple of moments. It actually, to be honest, there's only 4 of us on the call. I probably could just be asking you to come off mute. But Belinda said, okay, so she's not actively seeking. She is a professional in professional services and she's looking for a COO strategy role. Amazing.
Would you mind if I just said my name, Amy?
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks. I'm Zay, and I'm taking a career break at the moment, so not actively seeking a role, but will be jumping back in a few months, ideally in the startup or not-for-profit space or tech space. And I'm more of a generalist, worked across a few different industries, usually in scaling behavior change programs. And the types of roles I'm looking for, either in operations, general management, strategy, or people, as I said, generalist. So got a broad range. So the purpose of attending this workshop is see if I can focus that a bit more.
No, that's brilliant. We've got everybody on the call is very highly trained, which is amazing. And being generalist is amazing. It means that you can mesh into any role that really takes your fancy.
Yeah.
And we can always learn new skills on the job as well. I've learned all of my skills mainly on the job. Okay, so Deb is just starting to look for a role. And I'm going to have to move my chat box over a bit. I'm sorry. Trained in HR and business management, worked in financial services and property, looking for a chief of staff, CAO role, and head of people role. Amazing. Okay, so everyone's, I guess, a little bit on the same path. Okay, perfect. Okay. First of all, I'm going to talk about rebooting your resume. And so startups and scale-ups are hiring people, as we know, who can help them to grow and scale their company. They want someone that can take ownership of their role and responsibilities, dive straight in and use their existing skills to fill the gaps in their team structure. So it's really important to make sure that you can tailor your application to be focused on how you can bring your skills and knowledge to help them scale and grow the business. And so I know I've worked in startups before, and I've had employees that have come in, and yes, obviously it's very necessary to provide training to employees on the spot because every job is going to be different and employees need to have that opportunity. But when you're a startup and you're starting from the beginning, sometimes you're more than likely hiring for gaps in your organization. So it's really highly desirable to find people that can jump in and fill those gaps of the skill sets that they don't currently have. Resumes are still a really core part of the application process for a lot of organizations. However, you need to reboot your resume to fit the type of role and the organization that you're applying for. So, for example, a really good tip is to actually create a master resume. So you could create one resume that is 5 pages long and has all of your skills and all of the different career paths you've been on before, and then you could copy and paste the parts out of your master resume into a resume document that is tailored for this particular role, because depending on what role you're going for depends on what skills are going to be really relevant for that role. If you're, for example, going for a marketing role, it may not be so relevant to talk about your fish and chip job that was 5 years ago. However, if you're applying for a job in the food industry, when it is tailored to marketing, that actually may be quite desirable because it shows that you've got skills in that industry. So making sure that every job that you're applying for from the beginning is actually very tailored to that organization. And it's a fact, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about, and something that I didn't know about when I was applying for roles in the corporate world and at startups, that the majority of scale-ups and startups, as well as corporate organization, use something called applicant tracking system software. So, just here I can see that Natalia's on a career break too. Amazing. I'll read that properly in a moment. But just quickly, can you write in the chat box yes or no if you've heard about applicant tracking system software before? And if you know what it is. No? Yes. Okay, Zay knows. Brilliant. What about you, Deb? Do you know what it is? Yep. Okay, cool. All right, that's great that some people already know what it is, because this is some of the information that I'm covering at the beginning. So for those of you that don't know, ATS software is an applicant tracking system software that provides recruiting and hiring tool. Oh, I should say that again. It's a software that provides a hiring tool for companies. So these systems collect and they sort through thousands of resumes, and then they basically showcase the resumes that are the best match. So they might give the hiring directors the top 20 resumes. Some positions actually get hundreds of applications, and it's really difficult for recruiters and for hiring managers to read through so many. So this software is really designed to be able to filter out the applicants that are not the best match, and then obviously deliver the best applicants. So it's important to know that your resume isn't typically going straight to the hiring manager. It's first being processed by this software. And if your resume is not compliant with the software, if it's not formatted in a certain way, your application actually is not going to go up to the hiring manager. You're going to go into the other folder, and your resume typically isn't going to be seen by a hiring manager at all. And even though you may be one of the most experienced people for the role, you'll get completely overlooked because you haven't formatted your resume in a way that the software likes, which is tragic, which actually leads me into a quick story about my fancy Canva resume. And I love Canva. I don't know about you, but I use Canva in my business each and every day. And I loved how gorgeous and pretty the resume templates are on Canva. And so I thought it would actually really help me to stand out from the crowd by creating a really good looking resume. And the roles that I was applying for, I believed that I was actually quite highly qualified for, and that I would at least get an interview, or I would at least get seen. And I kept getting just generic software responses, one after the other, saying, sorry, you haven't progressed to an interview stage. And this happened for a long time, like a few months. And it wasn't until I actually had a phone call with somebody that I knew at the organization, and I got in touch with the recruiting manager, and they told me, actually, we didn't see your resume at all. And they said, oh, just out of curiosity, what type of resume did you actually submit? And I shared my screen and I showed them my resume, and they just had a little chuckle and said, oh, look, I'm really sorry, but actually the software that we use would have completely rejected your resume, and your resume would have gone straight into the other folder, and we wouldn't have even seen it. You wouldn't have been even considered for the roles that you're applying for, which it was completely gobsmacking to me because I had no idea about this type of software. And so it's really important that everyone really clearly understands how to format your resume properly so that you're not getting processed out, that's not the right word, but taken out of the game because of simple formatting rules. So this is what I want to explain in a bit more detail at the beginning. So here are a few tips. The first one is that you need to use keywords from the job description and other keywords that you could use to describe your role and responsibilities, and make sure that you use them in context. So a good idea is to have a look at the job description and make sure that you're taking keywords from the job description. And I've got here. Thanks for sharing the Canva resume. I was considering using that, but now I won't. Yeah, Belinda, it's so true. And my sister was doing the same thing. This was a few years ago now, and she wasn't getting any roles, and we couldn't understand why. Anyway, but when you're doing the keywords in context, so take them from the job description and then put them in a sentence about how you have that skill, because the software will be picking up those keywords and making sure that it tells the software that you've got the right skills for the job. Okay. Another thing that you can do, the software is getting quite tricky now because it knows that people know how to do this. So another thing that you can do is actually use keywords that are related to your industry as well, but not in the job description. For example, it might be like a marketing specialist and I create whatever, but you could use different words like I create video blogs, I use social media and so you use like social media, video, and you use different words that explain your career as well, because the ATS software now knows to look for other keywords that are related to that industry, that job role. Okay. So as I said before, against popular advice, do not be creative with the formatting of your resume. The software will actually scan your resume from left to right and then top to bottom. So it's really important to make sure that it's easy for your resume to be read. And what that means is that you need to avoid the following. You need to avoid tables, columns, photos, text boxes, logos, graphs, and other visuals from your resume. And you also need to supply your resume in the file type that's requested. And the most common is PDF, Word, or a Word file. So I just also want to quickly explain one other thing as well. The software, when it's reading from top to bottom, it actually prioritizes the information that's in the top third of your resume. So you really want to make sure when you're formatting your resume that those top keywords that are really relevant to your job, the job that you're going for, are in the top third as well. Like, of course, they'll be scattered throughout, but just making sure that the top third really does have quite a few skills or keywords, in the top third of your resume. There are a few more. So the next one is to stick to a universal font like Arial, I can't say that properly, Helvetica, Times New Roman, Garamond, Georgia, or Cambria. They're the universal fonts that are well known by the software. Sometimes when you pick like a scriptive font, and if the software doesn't have that preloaded, it won't be able to read your resume at all. I'll just get rid of that, sorry. There we go. Avoid putting information in the header or the footer of your resume. I know sometimes you can put your name and phone number and everything right up in the header. I still see that, so I'm going to have to look into that a bit further, but it is said that sometimes the software can't read the information that's in the header or the footer as well. So just consider that, maybe pop it in the, like, just under the header and the footer. Avoid using fancy explanations in your headings. So stick to the standard words like professional summary, work experience, and education, so that the software knows exactly what bucket to pop your experience in when it's providing your information to the hiring managers. And then the last little tip that I have for you, just in terms of this information, there is a website called jobscan.co. So you can actually format your resume, and it'll tell you a score, like a percentage score of the compatibility of your resume when you upload it. So it'll say, look, your resume is 89% compatible with ATS software, or it might tell you that it's 20%. So it's a really good idea to write down that website, which is jobscan.co. So once your resume is formatted properly, you can upload it and see how you score. Okay, so where you say you don't use tables, often easy to do professional summary in a table, so it's best to use tabs to get it all aligned. Great question. I'm going to show you an example now so that you can see how a good resume should be formatted. You can actually as well, after this, Google ATS compatible resumes, and it will give you lots of examples of how they look. So that's a really good tip as well. So this is an example of a resume that is really not compatible at all, and a resume that is is really well compatible. So Victoria Harris, you can see here how she uses columns in her resume. So she's got 2 columns. She uses tables. She's got graphics in there. She's got text boxes down here. Basically, the ATS software wouldn't be able to read her resume at all. What it would do is, because it reads from left to right, it would basically read words like research companies and generate 50 leads, communications. And then it would read approach potential customers through cold calling, awarded May 2018. And it would just be all completely jumbled. It wouldn't make sense when it goes through the system. And then on the other hand, Edgar's resume is actually really well formatted. So you can see here how it's just line after line. You can use bullet points, but basically because it reads left to right, the information would be really easy to read, and it would scan through the system quite well, and all of the information would go through to the hiring manager in the right order. And you can also see here that they use the general explanations of like work experience, education, words that are very typical for explaining what you do. So with that said, I'd love us to do a quick activity now, because there's not many people on the call. Okay, a few days ago I used JobScan. It was a 41% match. That's really interesting, Zay. There you go. So I'd love to open it up for us to now have a bit of a conversation about your resume right now, and have you made any of those mistakes, and do you need to make any changes, and I guess what you picked up from what I've just spoken about. So I might start with you, Belinda. Belinda, did you pick anything up out of that information?
Yeah, no, I did. Look, I haven't updated my resume for, it feels like years, but it was interesting because I thought my Word document was looking quite boring and pretty uninteresting, but it was reassuring to hear that that boring, more simplistic style will hopefully pass through some of that tracking software. But I think it's a really good point around using words that are associated to that job description, because I know with a lot of those algorithms or scanning technologies, they're using for matching, they're looking for words which are quite associated to what you do. But yeah, I think the other sort of aha moment that you gave me, Amy, was having a master CV, because I think I'm still in that process trying to work out which, there's probably going to be different types of CVs that I'll need to create depending on the type of role that I'm going for. And yeah, I think this, absolutely so simple, absolutely clear for me that I need to put everything in a one-stop shop, and then I can then adjust it, add it, cut stuff out. Yeah, anyway, sorry, I know I'm rambling a little bit there.
No,
but thank you very much
not
for
at
that.
all. You weren't rambling at all, and you're so right. It actually takes a lot of the stress away from applying for a lot of different roles by having a master resume put together, because then you can just copy and paste those relevant parts, like the relevant jobs and the relevant skills, into another resume that is tailored to that job. Otherwise, it can be really frustrating having to change every resume if you've just got the one copy. So something that I've done and Abby was talking about before is actually having 3 or 4 different types of resumes, depending on the types of roles you're going for. And then obviously still having your master resume so that you can pick out different parts that a resume, just to tailor it directly to that particular organization. So thank you very much for sharing that. What about you, Deb?
Yeah, I think my resume is in a table in itself. Do you know what I mean? It's actually in a Word document in a table. So it's probably seeing how to get that out, because it's been an easy way to keep. So I've had sort of 2 companies I've worked for with multiple jobs. So it's not, and I think I'd before tried to make it where it's not just across, because it looks like there's so much word on a page. If an individual's reading it, that's actually not necessarily easy. So it's interesting for a computer to read it versus the individual. It's quite a different look that you're probably going for. Yeah, it's tricky to know if someone's not using the software, but it's going to a person. You'd probably want a different looking resume than the other one.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the thing. It's actually, you can't know. That's the annoying part. But in a moment, I do give you a few other formatting tips that may help just to sort out that information a little bit. But yeah, completely. It is hard, especially if you have had a lot of roles and there's a lot of information. It's just doing the best that you can to concise it, I guess. And I think still present it in that, I'm going to say boring way. It is boring, to be honest. But I guess another thing that someone said to me, which was a really good point, was that, and it was someone that has to read resumes a lot. When they're reading resumes, they want to read them as quickly as possible because they're reading like so many resumes. And sometimes when they're presented with different resumes that have different graphics, it actually takes them a moment to focus and be able to read it properly because it's not familiar and they're having to like get their head around how it's formatted. And so they actually said, as boring as sometimes as it looks, it's not always the easiest to read when they are presented in a nice, fancy way. For exactly that reason, they're trying to get through them as quickly as possible. So they're like, okay, I don't care what it looks like. I just want to get the information in the first kind of minute that I'm reading it. Otherwise, if it's too hard basket, I lose my focus and I don't even read it properly.
Yeah, because some people say put like you almost do your summary page. So you've got your highlights and it's literally just the name and the job title and your time and that sort of, and then you might have your education and like achievements or something, and then you start your resume. How do those front pages translate into these things?
With the software, that's a really good question, because I know obviously you submit your cover letter as well. So I'm guessing that your cover letter, like you would also with a resume submit your cover letter, which is a bit more of a summary of what you're speaking about, your skills, and then how your skills then translate to the job that you're applying for. Is that what you meant by a cover letter or another?
No, like because like if you've had sort of 25 years experience, to do like a resume could be really long. So the advice I was given was your first bit is that people can do a quick snapshot of what have you done over that period. So it was a table, for want of a bit of a word, of this is so you can scan and go, oh, that looks like relevant experience. What education have they done and what are their key achievements, to give you a snapshot flavour before you launch into a more detailed part.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And actually something that we're going to talk about in a minute is your mission statement and how you can actually put that at the top of your resume. Again, just in simple formatting, so it's left or right. And I think that's a good idea. So probably not more than a paragraph or, max 2, because you don't want your resume to be more than 2 pages. Yeah. 2 pages is the max. So your summary would need to be like a paragraph. If you could do it in a paragraph at the most, 2 max. So yeah, we'll have a chat about a mission statement in a minute to see if I can help you to craft that together as well. But yeah, thank you very much. That was really interesting what you shared. Awesome. Did you pick anything up?
Yeah, it was good to, similar to Belinda and I guess Deb, in knowing that our standard or kind of non-colourful resumes are likely to pass through the ATS. It made me realise that a job I'd applied for a couple of weeks ago and got quite angry because it seemed as though the process wasn't matching what was said by the organisation in terms of women don't apply if they haven't got 60% of the skills, and still apply anyway and we'll be in touch. And it seemed like the rejections mismatched that process. But it made me think, if they're probably getting so many applications that they probably would use an ATS. And that's after that is when I did that jobscan.co thing and realized my resume matched 41%. And I just had not realized until I'd tested it out myself. So so it was good to have that affirmed from what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was actually quite angry as well, especially a couple of the corporate organisations were local corporate organisations, and I knew a few people in the workspace. And I'm like, surely I'd at least get an interview. I was like a bit offended. So I know exactly what you mean. But yeah, and especially in this climate, they would be getting hundreds and hundreds of applications. So you really do need to format it in the right way to be able to get even a foot in the door.
Yeah, it is. It's good to note, because I'm having worked in startup for my whole career, and usually in much smaller organizations where I've been reading the resumes myself. I haven't worked yet in an organization that's been big enough to use an ATS. And so now that I'm moving to potentially larger organizations, it just was in the unknown space for me. So yeah, I'm glad you've brought it up. Thanks.
Oh, no problems. And Natalia?
Hi, everyone. I'm just really upset and over it at this stage in my career, because I'm on a career break, but I've been applying for lots of jobs, and I'm one of the fancy Canva CVs, because writing CVs is so boring that I thought maybe if you use Canva, you get more motivated. And I do have like maybe 7 different CVs because I apply for different jobs. But and I also thought I wasn't applying for jobs that we use the ATS software, but maybe I have, I don't know. So I guess I'll have to redo it again and start from scratch. But funnily enough, I'm doing a course for startups, or like it's for tech people, intro to tech. And the lecturers praised my CV, and I was like, it looks amazing, but I'm not getting even interviews. So I'm just like, it's ironic, right? It's like, so anyway.
So ironic, yeah, definitely, as Belinda said, and everybody can relate with you. It's so frustrating and heartbreaking, and it does start to play on your confidence, because you think, come with me. I feel like I've got skills and I'm not being looked at all. So, and yeah, it's devastating to think it could be a simple formatting issue, the reason that you're not getting a look in the door. But it's a good thing. In a way, it's enlightening, and it's hopeful that you now know that there's a different way to format your resume, which means that new opportunities are definitely open to you. So yeah, I'm definitely hang in there, and I feel your pain. I've been there myself.
Thanks.
I really feel your pain. Okay, great. So have I spoken to everybody? I think I have. Yes, awesome. Okay, great. So let's move on. So other aspects to consider when creating your perfect resume. So content, so include information that is easy to read and contains relevant experience and skills. Remove anything that won't add value for that particular role. As I said before, hiring managers, when they do get your resume, they're just going to be skimming through as quickly as possible. So if your resume is filled with information that's not relevant, they're just going to lose focus and they're going to lose interest. Layout, so keep fonts and sizing really consistent. You may use bold and underline for headings. That's totally fine. It is picked up by the ATS. But just make sure that you haven't got different fonts everywhere, because it also can make your resume really confusing, like different sizing, and different fonts. Design, so don't jam pack the document with text. You do need to have some white space in between your sentences so that your resume is easy to read and scan. So I think it may have been, was it Deb before? Sorry, I'm still getting used to names. That mentioned that there's a lot of information there. So just try your best to just leave a little bit of white space where possible so that it's easy to read. And then length, so keep your resume to 1 to 2 pages max. So for somebody that has had 25 years experience, it is very tempting to put all of your experience in there, but maybe just question, like, actually, is everything that I've done really relevant, and can some of it come out? Because you don't want to be flooding too much, and you definitely don't want your resume to be more than 2 pages long. Another tip is, you don't want to have, say, 1.5 pages or half a page. You definitely want to be able to fill both pages or the full page. If it's just one page, it does look quite unprofessional if you've got space. So make sure that you just change your formatting or add in a little bit more information if you're not able to fill the entire page or the 2 pages. Other aspects to consider are language. So make sure that your information is clear and adopts a semi-formal tone. Avoid or translate any corporate jargon that may not make sense to a startup. Research the company and the website and their social media and look how you can actually incorporate their language into your resume, their values and their tone of voice, without obviously compromising who you are, because they're going to be looking for people that can fit into their organization, into their company culture. So if you can be talking like they talk, obviously, again, without compromising who you are, it's going to make them be able to see you as a really good fit for the role. And of course, obviously, spell check your resume before submitting your application. Order of events. So it's really important to have your most relevant experience and your most relevant skills up the top, in the top section of your resume. And then again, relevance. So do include achievements regarding your education, awards, scholarships, grants, the KPIs that you've reached, or the metrics that are useful. But obviously, you've got to make sure that they're relevant to the role. Otherwise, they're not going to really care. And I wanted to give you an example there. You could highlight how you've saved money, improved workflows, or contributed to efficiencies of your previous employers, as long as it's obviously relevant for this role. But obviously, I think if you haven't got any, don't take them all out if it's not relevant for the role, because it is really good for them to see that you're proactive and that you take initiative and what you're capable of. So if you've got, say, 6, take out the ones that aren't relevant, but at least make sure that you have 1 in there. I hope that makes sense. Awesome. Now, as I was just saying before, a really good idea that you can incorporate into your resume in the very top section before you go into your work experience and skills, the work experience and things you've done, work experience and education, you can include a mission statement at the top. And I'd love for us to, spend just 5 minutes now crafting your mission statement for a role that you would really love to secure. A couple of little tips here. One tip is that it's a good idea to pop a couple of keywords into your mission statement. So if you're going for a marketing role, you would make sure that marketing is in there, and something that you're passionate about marketing. So I'm going to give you an example of a mission statement. Obviously, mine's not so relevant because I have my own business, but you get the drift. I'm Amy Bett. I'm a business coach and host of the Choice podcast. I help women across Australia to master their mindset, manage their money, and focus on strategies that scale. And I didn't write that properly. I wrote that literally just before we started to give you an example. But can you see how that just gives the employer a clear snapshot of who you are and what you're passionate about in relation to your industry and what you're applying for? So is that clear? And do you think that you could spend 5 or so minutes now just crafting a bit of a mission statement that may help you to be able to secure a role? Yeah, awesome. So we'll do this until 1:55, and I'll see if I can put a little bit of music on for us to get the creative juices flowing. And feel free to ask any questions in the chat box if you need to. Natalia is a little bit lost. because you feel like you don't know the roles that you want to apply for. No problems. Why don't you just think about a role or something that you've been experienced in before? Really, the art is just to help you be able to get writing. So if you think about something, a job that you've done before, what would you say that your mission statement may be for that? For example, how can I give you an example? I'm going to use Google to look one up and give you an example which may help. Okay, so I always go to marketing because it's something that I'm familiar with, but a marketing specialist might say, my mission is to help our clients achieve sustainable business growth through market intelligence, creativity, and strategic vision, and to build an organization that attracts, develops, and retains outstanding people. This one says in Atlanta, but we can say in Australia and other parts of the world. So can you see just like parts of how as a marketing specialist, the things that you do, like why would you be passionate about being a marketing specialist, and how would you try and help that organization to grow? Or if that organization were to have clients, how would you help the clients of the organization grow? Does that make sense?
So it includes your experience, but also your values and what you stand for.
Exactly. What's your ultimate mission with doing that role, and how are you trying to, what are you really trying to do? The goal behind the goal almost. And when you're finished, just write your name in the chat box, but there's not really too much of a rush, so don't stress. So Abby has said you may have 3 career mission statements, one for marketing, one for events, one for education, for example. Your values should definitely be reflected, as this is something that's important to startups. So what Abby means here is not that you would put 3 mission statements necessarily in your resume, but you might have 3 different areas of interest that you're really passionate about. So it's a good idea to have them written out so you've got them, and then you can pick which one really reflects the position that you're going for. If that helps you, because some people might be like, oh, I'm so passionate about so many different things. You can write a few and then pick the best one for this particular role. So we'll just spend another 2 minutes on this. Feels really quiet now. I've turned the music off. All right, so we may leave it there for now, and you can come back to it after the session, but I might get a couple of examples. Zay, are you happy to give us an example about what you've been able to write?
Yes. Oh, I'll just type it in here. Shall I read it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I've just put it in the chat if that's preferred. I'm a purpose-driven general manager and meta coach. With an inclusive and collaborative leadership style, I work systematically to create high-performing, high-morale team cultures through which ambitious business goals and impactful outcomes can be sustainably achieved.
I love that. That's perfect. That's really great. That's a really good example of how you can present a mission statement at the top of your resume. It includes keywords. It's really easy to read. You explain like what you're passionate about and how you can help the organization to achieve goals and sustainably as well, which is also important for startups. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Would anybody put up your hand if you've been able to write something? What about you, Deb? How'd you go?
Yeah, I've written something. I don't love it though.
Don't stress.
I like yours.
No judgment here either. Seriously, there's no judgment. I would have struggled in this exercise.
I hate doing these things. I've been trying to do one for weeks.
It's just a good idea to be able to get into it and stop avoiding it. So yeah, give us yours and don't stress. There's no judgment.
I said, I thrive on driving and motivating individuals, teams and businesses to be the best they can be, demonstrated through the ability by growing and developing talent, assessing policies, procedures, thinking outside the box, and coaching and advisors business leaders to shape the organisation to deliver on its strategic priorities.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. You're giving yourself too much judgment there. I think maybe just in the first sentence, maybe just say who you are, I reckon, just so it's very obvious in the first sentence, just like I am, like, you know, how Zay's written, I'm a purpose-driven.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Something like that, just because it just frames like who you are, and then go into what you said, because I actually thought what you said was great. It was easy to come across, I believe, and I felt like you were able to talk about what you're passionate about. You were also able to talk about how you can help them, which is important.
Thank you.
Awesome. Natalia, what about you?
I think I'm still working on it.
That's okay. No problems at all. And Belinda, who have I not spoken to?
I'm in the same boat as well with Natalia. I think I'm having a bit of an identity crisis because I'm trying to write a mission statement for all sorts of different roles. But I've just, I've got probably maybe the first start of it, but I just need to probably obviously think about where I want to take it. So I've just got here, I'm a corporate innovator and entrepreneur who loves building new businesses and products, who's passionate about startup and corporate collaborations, something around extracting value and return on investment. So it's still half formed.
No, I love that. Do you mind repeating it, just because I missed the first bit? For some reason, my computer did not cut out.
Sure. No problem. So I've written here, I am a corporate innovator and entrepreneur who loves building new businesses and products, who's passionate about creating valuable and sustainable corporate collaborations, that something along the lines that extract return on investment and value, that I probably need to sharpen a little bit.
No, that sounds great. It's brilliant. It's just the end that you could obviously, as you said, sharpen up. But other than that, I think that you've done a really great job. Congrats. Okay. Now, I'm just having a look here. I'm so sorry. I cannot remember your name, and you've got the headphones in your ear and you've got a beautiful painting behind you. What is your name?
Oh, sorry, Zay. I made it the long version in case of LinkedIn or connecting or whatever, but it's Zay for short. Hey, Zay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Because I'm doing it this way, I can only see half of you at a time. Yeah. So it's hard to see on my screen who's doing much. Perfect, Zay. That's great. You've already written yours. It was brilliant. Amazing. So everybody has had a chance to speak now. We will move on. Key skills. So we've talked a little bit about skills and that it's important to include your skills in your resume, but startups do value hard and soft skills. So when applying for a role at a startup, you're going to want to focus on showcasing the key skills you've mastered during your career. Sorry, I'm lost here. Whilst applying for a startup, it's very similar to an established corporate business, but there are key elements that set them apart. Yes. So startups particularly really care about employees that can really fit into their culture, and also that can adapt to a high growth and fast-paced environment. So I'm going to give you an example. They're not really a startup now as such because they're so big, but I used to work at the Cotton On Group, who are a global retailer, and I used to work in their head office. And at the time, they were in a period of huge expansion, like they were opening 20 stores a week or something absolutely insane. And they really needed people who could just jump in and go with the fast pace and have a strategic mind that could keep up and that had a great attitude, and that they were really willing just to be team supporters, to jump into different roles as well when needed, and to support wherever they could. That's a really good example of how you can be a team player and, I guess, fit into a high-paced environment and fit into a culture of a startup who they're in fast expansion. They're growing really quickly. They obviously need to hire quickly, but sometimes there's gaps where the gaps haven't been filled yet. So they may need you to be able to step up, fit into the high growth and fast-paced environment, and be able to just get on with any role. And that can be really challenging for people who have been in, say, a government organization where everything is super duper black and white, and you're doing the same role, you manage a certain way, and there's not much diversity in what you're doing day to day. A startup is a completely different scenario, and this is why culture fit is really important, and so is adapting to a high growth and fast-paced environment. And so hard skills, as I've said, is really important. However, they really need to look for team members who are, I've said that, are passionate about their work, can make decisions, solutions focus is a big one, and that can think outside of the box. So I'm going to give you a bit of an example here of soft skills and hard skills that would be great to mention in your resume. So when you're writing your resume, think about both types of skills and make sure that they're in there. So passion and energy is a soft skill. Big thinker, solution finding, ability to role pivot, emotional intelligence, collaboration, decision-making, and initiative. I can tell you that those skills are just as important as having your skills in your job, like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud computing, data, analytics and science, developers and engineers, Internet of Things, virtualization, blockchain, UX designers, and sales and marketing. They're all amazing hard skills, but the soft skills are just as important. So to sink this information in, I'd love to show you a quick case study by Ali Hilmer. She's the founder and CEO of Zippy Crowd, and she explains what she's really looking for when she's hiring in her organization. And I did it. Let's go.
I am Ali Hilmer, the founder and CEO of Zippy Crowd. Zippy Crowd empowers people in small business space to grow their businesses through the power of their networks, not through the size of their marketing budget. The process of recruiting people for our startup was very interesting because my background, my career actually has three very strong verticals: education, migration, and recruitment. So having spent years in very heavy project-focused strategic recruitment, I thought I'd nail every person for the startup. I couldn't be more wrong. I got it wrong so many times when I was recruiting for myself. I had to question whether I know anything about recruitment. Startup work is completely different to corporate environment. So I don't look at CVs. I actually don't ask for CVs at all. I look at LinkedIn profiles, and then when I do searches on LinkedIn, and then I look at what else people say or do, the shortlist, what they say or do elsewhere outside LinkedIn. So I look at their Behance or Dribble profiles or Upwork, wherever they are, wherever their business profiles are, I look at everything because everything gives me some sort of picture how they explore life. And so I'm looking for curious people who are solution focused, not people who are building one vertical in their experience. The most important thing for me personally is that anyone who comes on board, they need to have huge empathy to people, huge. They need to think first about everyone else on the team and secondly about themselves. And it comes through when you talk to them, you get to feel that. I'm big on empathy, and I'm also big on people being on time, whether it's online meeting or offline meeting. If they can't be on time and they can't manage that, my dad's words are, they're stealing someone's time. So I'm very conscious about time and punctuality. And also, I don't do well with people who find problems but don't offer solution. So everybody on the team, whenever they find a bug or an issue with the feature or bad copy, I encourage them to share some sort of solution, 1 or 2 or 10 solutions or something. How do we solve it? Last thing is flat hierarchy. If someone wants to be in high position and manage other people, doesn't work, especially in our startup. I don't know how the others are organized, but flat hierarchy is the big thing. I encourage people to challenge me all the time, and they do. It takes a little while, but they do, and I love it because then it keeps me on my toes, makes me a better person.
Awesome. So you can see here how the soft skills are actually really important to Ali. And when she said that she doesn't actually look at resumes, and that's why there are different types of ways to apply for a corporate startup organization. So I'm guessing that she may actually have a video application, which we're going to speak about in a minute. But something that is worth noting as well, I've actually created another workshop for Pivott, which is happening next Wednesday at the same time at 1 o'clock, which is all about how to develop your personal brand. And what that actually means as well is how to actually present yourself on LinkedIn properly, how to look at your social profiles, and to be able to actually make sure that you're being seen in the best light and showcasing your values and what is important to you and your skill sets throughout those platforms as well. So if that's something that you are really interested in developing, it would be a good idea for you to come to that workshop as well next Wednesday at 1 p.m. But yeah, did anybody notice anything interesting in what Ali had to say, or it was everything that I guess you expected that startups would be expecting from their employees? Feel free to just write a yes or no or something in the chat box, or you can come off mute if you have something that you would like to say. Okay, so an home activity for you. So this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about, resumes now. We're going to move on to video applications, but a really good idea is once you've finished your resume to get feedback from a trusted family member or a friend, just to check for spelling and grammar and any other feedback that they can think about when with your resume. But obviously, don't take feedback that it looks boring or that it's not very appealing, because as I've just explained to you, the ATS is very important in making sure that your resume is compatible for that software.
Can I ask something about the JobScan website?
Yeah, of course.
So when you send your resume, do you need to send a job description as well for a potential job, or can you just do your search?
I don't think so. I think you just upload your resume. When I looked at it last time, you just upload your resume and it literally just tells you compatibility, because it's not going to actually look for the keywords of a particular role. It's just going to tell you, do you have tables and formatting that's not going to be able to be read by the software. I could be wrong, but when I checked a few months ago.
You go, Zee.
Oh, you go. No, you go.
I think it gives you put it up and then it gives you a list of jobs that you can pick from, and then it tells you against that job. So you might be 60% for one type of job and 70% for another and 20 for another. So you pick it up and it just has some general jobs that you can pick from.
Perfect. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Awesome. So I can see Natalia applied for Eco's next intro to tech intake.
That's the course I did.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. Great. Okay, so let's talk about video applications, because we're in a pandemic. A lot of people are out of the office. So it has become a trend and a requirement, like it's a need to be able to send in video applications, and especially to talk on Zoom. And not only are they obviously doing it from a need point of view, but hiring managers that want a video application. They're doing it because they want to, it sounds a bit harsh, but they want to weed out people that are not right for the role before they even get an interview on Zoom. So they might ask you for a video application first, and then the next round would be to do a Zoom call with you to find out some further information. So it's really important to be able to present yourself in a great way so that you've got the best chance and the best opportunity to get to that interview stage. So as scary as it is to sometimes create a video and it can feel intimidating, it is almost the new normal. And hopefully being on Zoom now has helped everybody to relax into being online a little bit more and to feel a little bit more comfortable. And I guess my mission for the rest of the last 40 minutes is to really help you to have the skills and the tools that you need to be able to create a video application that makes you feel confident and puts your best foot forward. So what we're going to talk about as part of the application process and what corporates are looking to see is how you present yourself on camera, how you use technology. They're wondering if you'll fit into their company culture, and they're wondering how you'll handle this unique type of application process, because more than likely now, especially with the current times that we're in, you will need to be on Zoom, you might need to be presenting meetings online. And so they're really looking to see if you are somebody that can step forward and that can handle a process like this. So there's two methods of video application requests that I'm aware of so far and that Stone and Chalk are aware of. So the startup will either provide you with a set of questions that they would like to respond to. And the best way to respond in this method is with the STAR method. So you can research and plan your responses like you would a typical interview question. So a STAR method, if you're not aware of it before, is a really common interview method. So you would talk about the situation, you would set the scene of your example, you would talk about the task, so describe what your responsibilities were in the situation. You would talk about the action, so explain exactly what steps you took to address it. And you would talk about the result. So what were the outcomes of your actions? What did they achieve? And you would actually answer each question one by one and repeat the question in your answer so that it's really clear to the hiring manager which question you're actually responding to. So before I move forward, because we're not going to actually talk too much about this, does anybody have any questions about this particular way of answering a video application, or is that quite clear to use the STAR method and you can actually just Google the STAR method and formulate your answers that way? That's okay? Awesome. So the other method is the startup may not provide you with any direction at all, and they've left it open to you. And I guess this is what I want to explain in a little bit more detail, because you can feel like, oh my goodness, I have no idea how to respond. What do I even say? It can feel very overwhelming. So in this case, it's a really good idea to treat the video as your elevator pitch. So you could mention who you are, what you do, what your experience is like and the skills that you have, why you're applying for the role, and how your experience will help their company grow and scale. And don't worry, you're going to get these slides as well if you can't write all of that down. So if you haven't been provided with a duration, you'd want to aim for about 3 to 5 minutes. Like you want to be able to talk comfortably for 3 to 5 minutes, but you don't want to go too far over. Like 10 minutes is a bit long to listen to. And anything shorter than that really doesn't give them much of an idea of who you are. And I will give you an example of this as well.
3 minutes, I think, max.
Pardon?
Usually it's 3 minutes max, I think.
Yeah, about 3 minutes. Yeah. 3, if you need to go over, I wouldn't stress if you recorded it and you were happy with it and it was like 4 minutes. I wouldn't go and delete it. I just keep it as it is. But yeah, 3 minutes is a really good guide. And people, they're really looking to see your personality. So don't think that it has to be like completely perfect. We're very aware now that everybody makes mistakes. That actually is what makes us human. It gives us a bit of personality. So I feel as though don't get too stressed about having to come across as absolutely perfect and I have to speak, I can't trip up. Really, it's about getting across who you are, what you do, why you're applying for the role, and how you can help them to grow the company. Remember, that's what they really want. At the end of the day, they just want someone that can step in and save the day and fill the gaps in their organization of the roles that they really need to take their business further forward. So that's what they're thinking about. So sometimes when you're thinking about, okay, how can I help? Like, how can I just get across that I'm there to help them? That it takes the pressure off you a little bit, because that's really what they're listening for. They're listening for, how can this person help me? And do I like them? Do they look like a friendly person? And sometimes by tripping up saying a wrong word and then starting again, it can actually show you as a relatable human and not as a robot that just is there to be really rigid in the role, if that makes sense. So we have a little activity now where we can spend 15 minutes writing a sample video script for your role. And I know, Natalia, it might be hard for you because you're not sure what kind of role you're going to be applying for. So do you think you'd be able to practice? Do you think that you
It's okay. I'll just do it for production manager for a film or something.
Great idea. Now, this may help you just with writing this. I was going to show you the example video afterwards, but I think I might actually show you it beforehand, just because I think it might help you with writing it and the activity. So this is actually Abby, and this is her real, this is not fake. This is actually her real video when she applied to her job at Stone & Chalk. And she did a really great job. Like, she did an amazing job of expressing herself, saying who she was. But the best part about this video is you can tell that she's a real person. She has personality, and she wasn't afraid. Like, she did stumble in one little area and she wasn't afraid just to keep going and actually just to submit it as it was. And it really is a great example to show you that you don't have to be perfect and that we're all human. So I'm going to show you this video now, and then we'll get on with the activity. So hopefully, let me know if you can hear this.
Hi there, I'm Abby, and I'm applying for the role of event manager for the Stone & Chalk organisation. Very inspired by what you do. I've been embedded in the TAFE sector for the past 4 years, working in education management, but I do have a strong background in events for over 15 years, and I'm passionate about events being used as a vehicle for education. And I think I've got skills that are a good fit for what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. I'm also really passionate about strategy, and I have worked for national organisations, and I understand the complexity of joining the dots, etc. So hopefully I'll have an opportunity to speak to you further and learn a little bit more about the role. And if I'm successful, I look forward to meeting you in the next couple of weeks. Anyway, best of luck with the whole process, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Awesome. So you can see that this wasn't 3 minutes at all. It was maybe 1.5 minutes. So it was quite short. So the point of that is, one, it was just a really good representation of what you can create. It doesn't have to be in fancy studio lighting. Abby literally filmed this on her phone in her house, and she was a successful candidate. So don't put too much pressure on yourself, but obviously you want to be able to put yourself forward in the best light. So whatever skills you can get in there, it's good to practice actually writing this now, because it'll help you to familiarize yourself with what you would say and how you would go about it. And this, by doing this now, it may actually help you be like, oh, I've already done this. I can just change it a little bit for the role that I'm applying for, and it's ready to go. So does anybody have any questions before we go ahead and do this ourselves?
I have a question about what you were saying before, that with the video, they see if you fit in the culture. How do they measure that from the video that you send?
It's really hard, but people, and it can seem really harsh, but people judge a book by its cover sometimes. Let's be honest, they do. And they might pick up the tone in your voice. There's nothing that you can really do, because you've got to put your best foot forward. And if you don't fit that organizational culture, then you shouldn't work there anyway, and they don't deserve to have you in that role. And it's just not a match, if that makes sense. So startups particularly, it'll be a vibe. It might be the way that you speak or something that you say. And it sounds really harsh, but it's actually a good thing for everybody because you want to work at somewhere that really loves and accepts you and you're inspired by and they're inspired by you. So it's just plain to know, like you're not going to fit in everywhere. I'm not going to fit in at every company. You're not going to fit in every company. So it's almost just like relaxing and being like, I'm just going to put my best foot forward of who I am and be comfortable with that and just go for it. And if they don't think that I'm the best culture fit, then too bad.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah. It's a little bit like going to a date and getting a vibe for the person.
A vibe. It's an energy, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get a vibe. Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely. So I'll see if I can put on a bit of music again. I'll pop up the elevator pitch little explanation and go for it. And just put your name in the chat box or yell out when you're done. And we'll go. We might just do 10 minutes on this actually, because I want to make sure we get through the last little bit. Okay, so we might just spend one more minute. Abby says, I've learned so much since that video application. All I can see the errors. Abby, no. It got you the job, and that's the point. It doesn't matter. It's just about doing it, and they obviously saw your skill set and your personality, even regardless of the errors. Okay, pop your name in the chat box if you're finished, or we can spend another 5 minutes on this if you'd like. So just let me know either way. Okay, Zay's finished. All right, we'll do one more minute. Okay, that music was actually making me sleepy. It was setting me right out. So, Zay, I'm going to go to you first again because you finished first. How did you find that activity, and would you be willing to share yours? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'm fine to share it. I found it interesting because I'm not sure yet what roles I'm going to apply for, so I just made one up. So yeah, I said, and I can't gauge how it's not very long, and it's not actually very targeted. And I repurposed the mission statement. So I said, I am a purpose-driven general manager, people leader, and meta coach with 14 years of professional experience in the startup sector. 8 of those years have been in cross-functional team management positions. With an inclusive and collaborative leadership style, I work systematically to create high-performing, high-morale team cultures through which ambitious business goals and impactful outcomes can be sustainably achieved. I deeply value community and collective achievement, which I can see will be a big part of the role in terms of supporting all team members to grow and develop. And in having orchestrated the iterative design and delivery of multi-stakeholder programs and the interstate expansion of organizational operations for 6 founder CEOs over my career, I'll apply the same vitality and creativity to support the people of X organization to flourish.
Yeah, perfect. I think that was absolutely great. The only advice I could give you, and you would do this anyway, because obviously when you're writing it always differently as when you're presenting it, is just using a little bit more language that makes you a little bit more human. Sometimes if you're like using big words all the time, it's hard to see who you are as well. So obviously you need to keep big words in there that are relatable to your skills. But like when you started talking about the vitality and things like that, I feel like the second half, I saw you in it a bit more in the second half. So just in the first half, put a bit more of you into it. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah, definitely. Because I was repurposing something, I just used all the same words and rejigged it. And then when I do it again, do the iterations, it would, that's where those words naturally that I'd say would come into it.
Exactly. And it's always so different when you're writing it to when you actually then go and practice saying it as well. Like you relax a bit more and you just, not that you won't relax it, but do you know what I mean? Like you just step into it and you're like, okay, so I'm talking to a person. How would I actually talk about it?
Yeah, I'd get the cat in front of me and talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. But what you actually said was brilliant. So I wouldn't change that. I'd just change the way that you deliver it potentially.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Is anybody else willing to share? I'm going to go to you, Deb. I seem to be going in the same direction first, but it's not because I'm choosing people. It's just the way that I see you on my screen.
I can try it. I hate writing these things about myself. It's just, I never know quite what to write.
That's great practice.
Correct. I just used a chief of staff role that I'd seen on a thing that, but again, I think I could have done the role, but put the resume in and I think got the almost reject back anyway. So I said, and it's not finished. It was just
of course.
I said, hi, I'm Deb Hudspeth. I'm applying for your chief of staff role. I was really excited when I read the job description as I felt, wow, this is a role I could really add value in, and what an exciting company to work for. I've had a diverse career over the last 20 years working with senior leaders across different markets in Asia, the US and Australia, through the ups and downs of financial cycles. Being in New York at an investment bank during the GFC was quite an experience. I've worked in both business and HR roles, but the ones I enjoy most are the chief of staff or business manager roles, as I've been called. CEOs and business leaders generally aren't in their roles because they love spending time on operational, administrative, people aspects of leadership roles, but they're the areas I really enjoy. I love being across those for you so I can focus on driving the business, getting things to what you need to know so you can deliver without having to spend unnecessary time on them, being the face or the voice of the business across different functions, working with corporate teams, building great relationships, and being a sounding board for you when there are times you just need to vent or download. And then I didn't get anywhere.
I love it. I actually wouldn't change a thing. I thought it was really personable. I think you spoke about how you can help them. You spoke about a bit of your experience. I love what you said about the GFC. Everyone, like, to know that you were over there and you had that experience, that is an incredible experience. So yeah, I think you smashed it. I actually wouldn't change it. So well done.
Thanks.
No worries. Natalia, how'd you go?
No.
That's okay.
Just because I used to work in academia, and academia had like very pompous language. When I'm transitioning now to other careers, I find it really hard to present myself professionally because I'm used to doing it in a very formal way. So it's just really, and because I don't know exactly what role am I applying for. This is like very confusing. So I started writing it about education, but I'm not passionate about it anymore. So it's really hard.
That's okay. Feel free.
I need to do your workshop next week.
Yeah, do the personal branding workshop. Do you want to share and I give you any feedback or help, or would you?
No, because this is not what I want to do. So I've just been,
Don't be silly. Feel free. I'm more than happy to help you because I can see it can be frustrating. So if you did want to practice writing it out and email it to Abby or like to Stone and Chalk and they want to send it to me, I'm more than happy to read it for you and to help you after this session. So that support's there for you. I'm more than happy to do that for you. Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. No worries. Belinda?
Okay, I've just literally written this, so I'm going to sound like I'm reading it out of a book, and I'm also trying to decipher my own messy handwriting. But there's
totally
so it's probably not going to have as much personality as I'd like it to have. So we go. And I'm currently a director at EY, where I focus on corporate innovation, where I'm responsible for managing the EY Foundry, a startup incubator for early stage B2B tech startups, where I get a unique insight into how corporates and startups succeed and thrive. I have nearly 20 years of corporate and professional service experience, spanning across innovation, digital transformation, strategy, and operations. I am a business builder and I know how to get stuff done. I'm really comfortable with working and navigating in complex environments where the default answer is no/I don't know in order to achieve outcomes. The reason why I'm applying for this role is I'm looking to leverage my skills and experience in a scale-up setting where I can help set and execute on strategy, deliver it, and create shared success. I thrive on uncertainty. Routine is not for me. I love high performance, I love getting into the details, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm now looking for a place to call home where I can establish myself and help grow, nurture, and scale this business or organisation X. And I believe this place is for me. I'm looking forward to connecting further on this, and thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a little bit rough at the end, but that's about it.
I loved it. I felt as though I really loved it. I felt as though I understood who you were, what you cared about, how you could help the team. I really loved it. I don't think you need to change it too much at all. I felt like your personality shone through. You were clear, you were concise. It was fantastic.
Thanks.
No problems. You girls, you're good at this. Very good. Okay, so I probably should have done this at the start as an example, but this may also help you, Natalia, for when you're creating it. So you'll get the slides of this as well. And to be honest, this is a bit of a poor example, but hi, I'm Amy Bett. I help companies market their products by creating show-stopping content that converts cold audiences into loyal brand fans that purchase time and time again. And then so you're talking about what your experience is, what you're good at. I'm applying for the digital marketing manager position at Canva because, and then you can talk about why you love their company, what you admire about them, why you think you'd be able to jump in and deliver incredible work or results that will move their business forward towards their vision. You could research what their mission is on their website and somehow entangle that in there. And then how your skills are transferable to the role, how your uniqueness will add value to their team and their company culture. And is there anything else that they should know about how you will help them to say a big yes? So if anybody, especially that's listening to the recording, if this will help you, this is a little example of how you can formulate your who, what, why, how script. And I'm sorry, I probably should have actually read that out before the activity. But yeah, I felt as though you all did such a brilliant job. So thank you so much. Now, before we finish, we've only got one more slide really after this one. I've got a video quickly to show you, and it's Abby. She was talking about her experience of a video application and how she went through the process and I guess what she thought about it.
My name is Abby Place and I'm an event manager, and I'm also doing some project work with Stone and Chalk. So I commenced at Stone and Chalk a few weeks ago, which has been very exciting, a bit of a transition. I actually came from the TAFE sector. So my interest in working for Stone and Chalk was based on my passion for education and ongoing learning and innovation. And TAFE there are elements of that, but it's quite bureaucratic and it's quite a slow process. So what I've experienced even in the last few weeks is that responsiveness, the agility, the need to actually collaborate is really very important to Stone and Chalk. And I think it's how I like to work. So I'm feeling so far so good. It's a great fit and I'm really pleased that I made the transition. So I found the job through LinkedIn and I applied for it in the traditional way, made an inquiry, and then I was actually asked to produce a short video about why I thought I was an appropriate fit for Stone and Chalk. And I've done that many times for social media and different platforms in my career, but I've never had to do it to talk about myself. So I did feel it was a new set of skills that I had to bring to the table, but I really liked it. And it was quite natural. So I thought this is a good sign that I'm feeling comfortable about the fit with the organisation. And then I was interviewed by the general manager, and that went really well. And then I was interviewed by the partnerships manager, which was great. But I was given a specific task, which was to present my ideas around how I would actually run a major launch event and then a series of subsequent events, which I thought was I actually really enjoyed the process. It got the creative juices flowing, and it made me feel really engaged with the actual job. You know, I was actually doing it before I got it, and fortunately I got it. But I really did enjoy that process. And moving forward, if I'm involved in recruitment, I would adopt the same process again. I would definitely have the video, because it also shows how capable people are in that tech space, in that digital space. And then I would also give them a project to present on. Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. So I hope that that little video just gave you a little bit of an insight for anybody that hasn't worked in the startup space before of what the application process may look like. Abby's process was actually quite vigorous. She had a couple of different interviews. She had to start with a video application, and then obviously also she had to do a case study as well. And so this is quite common, and it's because, as I've said previously, startups really need to make sure that they're hiring someone that can fill the gaps in their organization. So I think if you can really, when you're applying for the roles, really try and resonate with the role and get to know the role, look at their website, look at their company values and who they are, and then just take your best shot at expressing how you can really help them to move forward. And at the end of the day, it sounds silly, but people get so stressed about getting on camera, but it's not actually about you, it's about them. Like, it's how you can help them. So when you take the pressure off and go, they're not actually looking at me, they don't care what I look like as such, they don't care too much about, they don't care, they're not thinking about me, they're actually thinking about them and can I help them? That actually takes the pressure off you a little bit, and you're like, all I have to do is express how I can help them, and hopefully they like me and they'll think that I'm a good culture fit. And I hope that helps you when putting together your application. So just before we finish, I do just want to give you a couple of quick recording tips, and sorry about my shocking formatting on here. But anyway, if you're filming on a smartphone, make sure that you're holding your phone vertically and that you've cleaned the camera to remove any marks or makeup or fingerprints. So sometimes if you're recording it horizontally, the video most likely will actually be upside down when they receive it. So just make sure that you're filming it vertically. You can open a Zoom meeting and click the record button, and then you can actually edit the recording very easily using a software like Descript or iMovie. For anyone that hasn't heard about Descript before, it's actually so brilliant. It is this fancy, it's not actually a fancy software, it's very easy to use, but it's a software that you drop the video into it or an audio recording, and it transcribes the audio or the video, and the words come up on the screen, and you actually edit the video just by simply raising the words on the screen, and it automatically takes it out of the video. It's absolutely amazing. So you can almost take the pressure off and go, oh, cool, look, if I stuff up, I can actually just quickly pop it into something like Descript, and you do get an opportunity to do a certain amount of minutes for free before you have to pay for the software. So you can go, oh, look, I buggered up, but I'll just keep going because I can quickly just edit that part out of the video. So that's very helpful. Even if you record it on your phone, you can still just upload it to your laptop, edit it in Descript, and then upload it for your application. So editing tools are brilliant so that you don't have to start over and over again. And then prepare appropriately. So don't read from a script. It's okay, definitely, to glance at your notes in between questions if you want to jog your memory of where you're at. But as I said before, people want to see your personality. They're really wanting to know if you can thrive in their organization. And that will mean, generally speaking these days, to be able to get on camera and to be able to present at meetings and things like that. So reading on a script just does not look good at all. So that leads me to my last little bit of advice, is just be yourself, because everybody else is taken. And I just want to remind you that you are absolutely fabulous, and that hiring managers and managers are looking for so many different things. So try not to get disheartened when you're applying for roles and if it doesn't work out, because you are amazing. And as long as you think that you're putting your best foot forward, then you can't do any more than that. So keep applying, do not give up, and I wish you all the best. what we've just been through is why video applications are the new normal, the 2 types of video application requests and how to respond to them, and then just a quick couple of recording tips to present yourself. Oh, the last thing I want to say is if you can have a plain background as well, that is helpful. It doesn't always have to be the way, but just not cheap. Don't have your washing in the video, or don't have your undies hanging out or something. Just present yourself as you would as you walk into the office and have your house tidy. You can't do much more than that. So I'm going to stick around if anybody has any questions quickly, but I really just want to thank you so much to you all for sticking around for the entire 2 hours. It's a long time to be on a workshop, and I appreciate you so much for being so interactive and for completing the activities to the best of your ability. It means a lot to me that you showed your face when you could and that you gave it your all. So I appreciate you and thank you very much. And as I said, I'll be here if you have any questions. Feel free to, you can put your name in the chat box if you have a question and I can call you out, or you can just jump off mute, whatever you prefer.
And I just have to quickly go, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for organising this and presenting this. I found it really helpful. But yeah, no, so I just wanted to say thank you before I signed off.
Oh, thank you, Belinda. I appreciate that. And good luck with finding the career that you're really interested in. And yeah, I thought you were brilliant. So thank you so much again.
Great. And thanks to everyone else for sharing. I really appreciate it and learned quite a lot from everyone. So thank you too.